Ladies, let's start by acknowledging something that's often left unsaid. Love is not about control. That it's not about shaping someone into your ideal version of them, nor is it about creating a relationship that looks perfect from the outside. Love is about connection, and connection begins with vulnerability, true, raw, and honest vulnerability. For both you and the man in your life to experience real love, you need to create a space where both of you can show up as your true selves. Vulnerability is often seen as a weakness, especially in a world that prizes strength and self-sufficiency. However, true emotional connection and intimacy can only be achieved through vulnerability. This may seem counterintuitive, as vulnerability requires us to expose parts of ourselves that we would typically prefer to keep hidden. It's a state of being open, honest, and unguarded, and for many, this feels risky, uncomfortable, and even terrifying. But it's exactly in this rawness where real connection is forged. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we allow others to see us as we truly are, without the masks, without the defenses, and without the shields we often put up to protect ourselves. For relationships to thrive, vulnerability is essential. Whether in romantic partnerships, friendships, or family dynamics, people need to feel seen, heard, and understood. This cannot happen if we remain closed off, if we keep our emotions at arm's length, or if we hide behind a facade of strength. While it may seem safer to hide our true feelings, to put up walls and maintain control, in doing so we also prevent any real connection from taking place. Vulnerability invites others to meet us at the level of our humanity. It shows them that we are not just individuals with walls built around us, but people with emotions, insecurities, fears, dreams, and desires. When it comes to relationships, especially romantic ones, both partners need to feel they can trust each other with their innermost selves. If one person is unwilling or unable to be vulnerable, the other may begin to feel distant, rejected, or alone, even if the relationship appears outwardly fine. Vulnerability creates an environment where both individuals can lean into each other's imperfections, acknowledging that both have flaws, and yet both can offer something beautiful and real. It opens the door to empathy, compassion, and understanding. Without vulnerability, relationships become transactional based on a performance or surface-level interactions rather than deep emotional connection. Allowing someone to truly see us is an act of courage. It's letting go of the fear of rejection or judgment, trusting that the person on the other side will accept us, not despite our flaws, but because of them. This kind of deep connection requires both people to be emotionally available and willing to be open. In doing so, both partners create a safe space where love, trust, and understanding can grow. For men, this is often particularly difficult because of societal expectations that they be strong, stoic, and independent, leading many to suppress their vulnerability. But when men are able to share their true selves with their partners, whether it's their fears, insecurities, or hopes, they experience a deeper sense of connection and intimacy. It also allows women to be more vulnerable, knowing that their partner is showing up authentically as well. Vulnerability doesn't just connect us to others, it also connects us to ourselves. It allows us to acknowledge our own needs, to be honest about our feelings, and to recognize where we may need support. When we embrace vulnerability, we step away from the constant striving for perfection and allow ourselves to simply be human with all the beauty and messiness that entails. It's through this raw, unfiltered experience of ourselves that we find the deepest, most meaningful connections with others. Vulnerability is not a sign of weakness. It is the path to true emotional intimacy and the foundation of every relationship worth having. In life and relationships, we often equate strength with control, believing that if we can maintain authority over our surroundings and the people in our lives, we will be safe, secure, and successful. However, the truth is that true strength is not found in holding tightly to control, but in surrendering to the natural flow of life and love. Surrendering does not mean giving up or relinquishing all power. Rather, it means letting go of the need to control every outcome, trusting that things will unfold as they should, even if it feels uncomfortable or uncertain. This shift in perspective is essential for cultivating deeper connections and a more authentic sense of strength. Control often comes from fear. We try to control situations, relationships, and even ourselves to prevent chaos, avoid pain, or maintain a sense of stability. The irony, though, is that in our attempt to manage every detail and dictate every result, we create a sense of tension and resistance. This constant striving for control can drain our energy, limit our experiences, and stifle the growth of ourselves and our relationships. The more we try to control, the less room we leave for spontaneity, for new opportunities, and for the natural ebb and flow of life to guide us. Surrender, on the other hand, is not about weakness or passivity. It's about releasing the illusion of absolute control and embracing the uncertainty that comes with truly living. In relationships, this means allowing your partner the space to be themselves, free from the weight of your expectations or demands. It means trusting them to navigate their own path, even if it's different from what you would have chosen. True strength in relationships comes when we let go of trying to mold others into who we think they should be and accept them as they are. This doesn't mean tolerating negative behavior or settling for less than we deserve, but it means trusting that the bond between two people will grow naturally when both partners are free to show up authentically. Surrendering control also requires us to trust ourselves more deeply. It's about having faith in our own ability to adapt, to handle challenges as they arise, and to be resilient in the face of life's uncertainties. When we surrender, we allow ourselves to be fully present in the moment, without the constant pressure of needing to predict or control what happens next. This type of strength is grounded in self-awareness and self-trust, and it opens us up to richer, more fulfilling experiences. We stop chasing perfection and instead start embracing the messiness of life, recognizing that it's often through the imperfect moments that the most growth and connection occur. In romantic relationships, the act of surrendering can create a powerful dynamic where both partners are free to express themselves, share vulnerabilities, and experience love without the burden of rigid expectations. It allows both individuals to become more attuned to each other's needs, desires, and emotional states, fostering deeper understanding and intimacy. When we surrender the need to control, we invite more harmony and balance into our lives and in turn into our relationships. Strength is found in the ability to let go, to trust, and to allow life to unfold in its own time. It's not about dictating every step of the journey, but embracing the uncertainty and beauty that comes with surrendering the illusion of control. By letting go, we open ourselves to a more authentic, powerful, and meaningful experience of life and love. True strength lies in our ability to surrender. We live in a world that constantly tells us to strive for perfection, to look perfect, act perfect, and be perfect. From social media to advertisements, we're bombarded with images and ideals of flawless beauty, flawless success, and flawless relationships. This pursuit of perfection, however, is a double-edged sword. While it may seem like the ideal to aspire to, it often leaves us feeling inadequate, unworthy, and disconnected from our true selves. In reality, the key to living a full and meaningful life lies not in the pursuit of perfection, but in the acceptance and embrace of imperfection. Embracing imperfection is about recognizing that flaws and mistakes are not things to be ashamed of, but essential parts of what makes us human. It means accepting ourselves and others with all our quirks, inconsistencies, and failures, and understanding that these very imperfections are what allow us to grow, learn, and connect with others on a deeper level. Perfectionism creates unrealistic standards and pressures that, when unmet, lead to feelings of shame and disappointment. But when we embrace imperfection, we free ourselves from these constricting ideals and create space for authenticity and self-compassion. In relationships, whether romantic, familiar, friendships, imperfection is what makes us real. When we present ourselves as flawless, we create a barrier to intimacy. Others may feel as though they have to meet the same impossible standards, or worse, they may feel disconnected from us because they can sense that we're hiding parts of ourselves. However, when we allow ourselves to be seen as imperfect, when we show our vulnerabilities, share our mistakes, and admit our fears, we open the door for others to do the same. This vulnerability fosters a deeper connection, one that is built on trust, acceptance, and mutual understanding. Our imperfections are also where we find our true strength. They teach us resilience, humility, and empathy. When we stumble, fall, and fail, we learn how to rise again, how to adapt, and how to persevere. It's through our struggles that we often discover our greatest strengths and character traits. It is our imperfections that shape us, not in spite of them, but because of them. They give us the opportunity to be compassionate toward ourselves and others, and they help us develop the courage to keep going even when the road is difficult. Embracing imperfection allows us to experience life more fully. Perfectionism often keeps us trapped in a cycle of self-criticism, constantly chasing an ideal that is elusive and unattainable. This can make us miss out on the beauty and joy of the present moment. When we accept that nothing in life, including ourselves, can ever be truly perfect, we are freed from the constant pressure to measure up. Instead of focusing on what is wrong or not enough, we begin to appreciate the little things that make life beautiful, the imperfections, the mistakes and the moments of spontaneity that make life unpredictable and rich with experience. Embracing imperfection is about learning to love ourselves unconditionally, flaws and all. It's about letting go of the unrealistic standards imposed by society and accepting the natural ebb and flow of life. In doing so, we give ourselves permission to be real, to be vulnerable, and to connect with others in a genuine way. We stop chasing perfection and begin to live a life that is authentic, fulfilling, and full of growth. Imperfection is not something to fear or avoid, it is something to embrace, for it is through our imperfections that we find our true beauty and strength. Creating space for growth is one of the most powerful gifts we can give ourselves and those we love. Growth, by its very nature, requires freedom, the freedom to evolve, to change, and to stretch beyond our current limitations. Yet, in a world that often values certainty, stability, and control, it can be difficult to allow space for change to happen naturally. We tend to cling to comfort and familiarity, fearing the unknown and resisting the discomfort that growth often brings. However, it's in that very discomfort that true transformation occurs. By creating space for growth, we open ourselves to new possibilities and invite deeper, more meaningful connections in our relationships. Growth can be an uncomfortable process, one that often involves confronting parts of ourselves or our situations that we would rather avoid. It might mean letting go of old habits, releasing past wounds, or stepping outside of our comfort zones to try something new. This is true not only for ourselves, but for those around us as well. When we create space for growth in our relationships, we give each other the room to become better versions of ourselves. We allow our loved ones to change, to learn from their mistakes, and to evolve without fear of being judged or criticized. This space doesn't mean distance or disengagement. It means fostering an environment where both people can thrive individually while still being connected. One of the most significant barriers to growth is the fear of change. We may worry that growth will disrupt our relationships or cause us to grow apart. But the truth is, when we allow for growth, we are actually strengthening the foundation of those relationships. Instead of holding on tightly to the version of someone we think we know or want them to be, we allow them to flourish into who they are becoming. This not only makes the relationship more dynamic, but also allows both partners to experience the joy of discovering each other anew as they evolve. Creating space for growth also requires patience. Growth doesn't happen overnight, and it's rarely a linear process. There will be setbacks, periods of uncertainty, and times when things seem to regress instead of progress. In those moments, we need to remember that growth is often messy and non-linear. Just because something doesn't look perfect or doesn't happen at the pace we expect doesn't mean it's not happening. Patience allows us to give ourselves and others the grace to move through the inevitable ups and downs of the growth process without rushing or forcing change. Creating space for growth is about trust. It's about trusting that both you and your partner, friend, or loved one will continue to grow in ways that benefit both of you, even if those ways aren't immediately clear. It means stepping back and allowing the natural rhythms of life to take their course. Trusting the process of growth is also about having faith in each other's resilience, knowing that when challenges arise, both of you have the capacity to navigate them and emerge stronger. Trust is the bedrock upon which space for growth is built, and without it, growth becomes stifled. Creating space for growth requires self-awareness. We must be in tune with our own needs, desires, and boundaries in order to create an environment where growth can occur. When we're clear about who we are and what we need, we can better support others in their own growth and create an atmosphere that encourages mutual development. It's about recognizing that we don't have to be perfect or have all the answers to make growth possible. We just need to be open, patient, and willing to allow ourselves and others to evolve at our own pace. By creating space for growth, we are essentially giving permission for ourselves and those we love to embrace change and transformation without fear. Growth becomes not a challenge to overcome, but a natural part of the journey we take together, enriching our lives and relationships in ways that are both fulfilling and empowering. The more we create space for growth, the more we invite depth, connection, and joy into our lives. Respecting boundaries is one of the most powerful ways to build trust in any relationship. Boundaries are not just about physical space, they also involve emotional, mental, and psychological limits that protect our well-being and integrity. When we respect the boundaries of others, we demonstrate that we value them as individuals with their own needs, desires, and limitations. This respect fosters a safe space where both people can feel secure, understood, and free to express themselves without fear of being overwhelmed, controlled, or dismissed. Whether romantic, familial, or platonic, understanding and honoring each other's boundaries is essential for trust to develop. Without this respect, relationships can quickly become toxic, with one person feeling overburdened or unheard while the other feels rejected or misunderstood. When boundaries are not respected, it creates a sense of instability, where one person may feel as though they are constantly being pushed or violated, even unintentionally. This emotional strain can erode the foundation of trust, making it difficult for the relationship to thrive. When boundaries are respected, however, they serve as an invisible but strong framework that supports the relationship. Boundaries help to clarify what is acceptable and what is not, creating a space where both individuals feel seen and heard. For example, in a romantic relationship, one partner might need alone time to recharge, while the other may thrive on constant connection. Acknowledging and respecting these differences is crucial. If one person continually ignores the other's need for personal space, resentment can build and trust will be undermined. But when both partners communicate their boundaries and are receptive to each other's needs, it creates a harmonious balance where both individuals feel respected and understood. Respecting boundaries also allows for healthier communication. When we know where our own limits lie and can express them clearly, we set the stage for honest and open conversations. It prevents misunderstandings and misinterpretations as both parties know what is and isn't acceptable. This openness encourages transparency and reduces the fear of conflict. In contrast, when boundaries are crossed repeatedly, it leads to feelings of frustration and mistrust. The absence of boundaries can result in resentment, as one person feels their needs are being disregarded, and the other feels incapable of meeting those needs without sacrificing their own well-being. In these situations, trust begins to erode because the relationship becomes more about control and less about mutual respect. Another crucial aspect of respecting boundaries is the ability to listen and empathize. It's not enough to simply know what someone's boundaries are. We must be willing to actively honor them. This means not only respecting physical space, but also being attuned to emotional needs. For instance, if a person shares that they're not ready to discuss a certain topic, respecting that boundary shows that you care about their emotional safety. By doing so, you affirm that their feelings matter and that you are willing to support them on their terms. This creates a deeper sense of security and trust, knowing that both partners are invested in each other's emotional well-being. Respecting boundaries also teaches us to respect ourselves. By acknowledging our own needs and expressing them clearly, we set a standard for how we want to be treated. In doing so, we encourage others to do the same, fostering a relationship built on mutual respect. When both individuals are committed to honoring each other's boundaries, they are reinforcing trust. This creates a space where both people feel valued and safe, and where trust can deepen over time. So respecting boundaries is an act of love. It shows that we care about the other person enough to prioritize their needs and well-being. When boundaries are respected, trust grows naturally, and relationships become more authentic, balanced, and fulfilling. By acknowledging and honoring boundaries, we create the foundation for meaningful connections that can withstand challenges and grow stronger over time. Releasing expectations is one of the most freeing and transformative actions we can take in our relationships and in life. Expectations often come from the desire for certainty, control, or a sense of security. We set expectations for how people should behave, how situations should unfold, or how our lives should look. These expectations, however, can become heavy burdens that limit our ability to experience life fully and authentically. When we hold tightly to these ideals and standards, we close ourselves off to the present moment, to the possibility of surprise, and to the richness that life has to offer. But when we let go of rigid expectations, we open our hearts to acceptance, growth, and deeper connections with others. Of expectations is the need for predictability. We want to know what to expect, and we feel safer when things go according to plan. However, life is inherently unpredictable, and relationships especially do not follow a set script. When we approach people with rigid expectations, we risk creating an environment where they feel constrained or judged, unable to fully express themselves or show up as they truly are. Expecting others to behave in a certain way or meet specific standards places a burden on them that can lead to feelings of inadequacy or resentment. Likewise, when we hold ourselves to unrealistically high standards, we set ourselves up for disappointment, self-criticism, and frustration. Releasing expectations allows us to embrace the present moment with openness and curiosity. It allows us to let go of the need for control and embrace life as it unfolds. When we no longer demand that things be a certain way, we begin to see the beauty in what is. We stop focusing on what's lacking or what's missing and start appreciating what's right in front of us. This shift in perspective opens our hearts to the possibility of joy, connection, and love that we may have otherwise missed while chasing after idealized outcomes. In relationships, when we release the pressure of expectations, we give both ourselves and others the freedom to be imperfect, to make mistakes, and to grow. This fosters a space where love can blossom, not because of conditions or achievements, but because of the simple, unspoken bond that exists between two people. Releasing expectations allows us to deepen our emotional connections. When we let go of preconceived notions about how someone should behave or what a relationship should look like, we free ourselves to experience others in their full complexity. We begin to see people for who they really are rather than for who we want them to be. This creates room for empathy, understanding, and acceptance. When we stop trying to mold others into our vision of what they should be, we can love them as they are, flaws and all. This unconditional acceptance deepens trust and intimacy, creating a more authentic connection based on mutual respect. Letting go of expectations also invites us to be more compassionate with ourselves. We are often our own harshest critics, holding ourselves to impossible standards and constantly measuring our worth against some arbitrary yardstick. Releasing these expectations allows us to treat ourselves with kindness and patience, accepting our imperfections and mistakes without judgment. It creates a space where we can be gentle with ourselves, recognizing that growth is a process and we are worthy of love and acceptance, no matter where we are on that journey. When we release expectations, we also invite more freedom and spontaneity into our lives. Instead of trying to control every outcome, we can embrace the unexpected, knowing that it's often in these moments of uncertainty that we experience the most growth and joy. Life becomes less about fulfilling a checklist of expectations and more about embracing the flow of experiences that come our way. We learn to trust that whatever happens, we will be able to handle it, and that life, in all its unpredictable beauty, will always provide us with the lessons and opportunities we need. Releasing expectations opens our hearts to love in its truest form. It allows us to approach ourselves, others, and life with greater openness and acceptance. It creates space for deeper emotional connections, for growth, and for the unexpected gifts that life has to offer. By letting go of what we think should happen, we make room for what actually can happen, the joy, the love, and the experiences that exist beyond the boundaries of our expectations. In a world that often values achievement, productivity, and performance, we can easily fall into the trap of believing that our worth is determined by what we do or how we show up. From school to work to relationships, we are conditioned to measure success by outcomes, by results, and by external validation. However, the true power in life comes not from performance, but from presence. Being present, fully engaged in the here and now without distraction, judgment, or the pressure to perform is where real connection, growth, and fulfillment occur. The shift from performance to presence allows us to experience life in its most authentic and meaningful form. Performance is often driven by the desire for approval or the fear of failure. It's about meeting expectations, fulfilling obligations, and presenting an image of success to the world. While this drive for achievement can motivate us to accomplish great things, it can also cause stress, burnout, and a sense of disconnection. When we focus solely on performance, we become preoccupied with the outcome and lose sight of the present moment. We miss out on the richness of life because we're too busy striving, competing, and measuring up. Whether it's trying to meet the expectations of others, constantly checking our social media for validation, or setting unrealistic standards for ourselves. Performance often comes at the cost of our peace of mind and our ability to connect deeply with those around us. On the other hand, presence is about being fully attuned to the moment, to the people in our lives, and to ourselves. It means putting down our phones, letting go of distractions, and engaging with what is happening right in front of us. Presence requires us to show up without the need for perfection, without the pressure to perform, and without the fear of judgment. It's about being real, being human, and allowing ourselves to feel what we feel without the need to mask or suppress our emotions. When we are present, we are not concerned with the past or the future, but with what is unfolding in the moment. This allows us to experience life more deeply and meaningfully. In relationships, presence is everything. It's not about how many things we can do for someone or how many accolades we can receive for being a good partner, parent, or friend. What truly matters is how much of ourselves we are able to offer in the moment. When we give someone our full attention without checking our phones, interrupting, or thinking about the next thing we need to do, we create a space for authentic connection. Presence allows us to listen deeply, to empathize with others, and to understand their needs and emotions. It's in these moments of being truly present that trust, intimacy, and love grow. Performance, on the other hand, often creates distance. If we are focused on performing in a relationship, saying the right things, doing the right things, or acting in a way that fits an idealized image, we may inadvertently push others away because they feel like they are engaging with a version of ourselves that isn't real. The power of presence, however, allows others to see us as we are, and in turn, we see them as they truly are. Presence is also an act of self-compassion. We live in a culture that often glorifies hustle and achievement, leaving little room for rest, self-care, or reflection. But true fulfillment doesn't come from being constantly busy or from performing for others. It comes from being present with ourselves, accepting where we are, and allowing ourselves to simply be. By practicing presence, we honor our own needs and emotions, giving ourselves permission to pause, to breathe, and to appreciate the current moment. It's in these quiet moments of presence that we reconnect with our inner selves, rediscover our passions, and cultivate a sense of peace that doesn't depend on external validation. The power of presence lies in its ability to ground us in the here and now. It allows us to connect more deeply with others, to experience life more fully, and to cultivate a sense of inner peace that is not dependent on our performance or achievements. By choosing presence over performance, we free ourselves from the endless cycle of striving and allow ourselves to embrace the beauty of simply being. It is in this space that we find true joy, fulfillment, and connection. So let's put this all together. Stepping back doesn't mean giving up, it means making space. It means trusting that love will grow when you allow both of you to breathe, to be imperfect, to evolve, and to be vulnerable with one another. By stepping back, you invite your partner to show up fully, and that's when love can truly flourish. Remember, the greatest love you can give is not one of control, but one of freedom to be who you are, flaws and all, and freedom to love without the weight of expectation. This is how real lasting love happens. So step back, love with your whole heart, and trust that the love you deserve is already waiting for you. Thank you